What you do when you can't go fishing because of the rain, of course, you make a fishing video. Both of my sister's partners have recently retired and they're looking to take up the art of fishing. So I thought I'd start them off with a simple video on how to put on bait. Now you might think at first, gee, that's a simple thing, but in 50 years of fishing I've learned a few tips and tricks along the way. The most important thing that I'm going to pass on to you today is how to do a half hitch. And you'll use that just about every time you go to put a bait on your hook. But before we get into that, I want to show you how to look at a bait and work out which way you're going to put it on the hook first. Slippery little suckers. So understanding what will happen with your bait in the air is the first thing to consider. When you cast your line out, it's the sinker that will pull your bait along. So you want to put your bait as aerodynamical as you can on your hook. So putting a prawn or a pilchard on, it would go in smallest bit up towards the eye of the hook. And of course, look at the shape of the hook. The widest part of the hook needs to go into the widest part of the bait. So now we know which way we're putting the hook into the bait. Let's show you how to do that and then how to do a half hitch. So first I go in close to the backbone, I go all the way through until I pull the hook clear out the other side. I turn the fish over, go back in close to the backbone, swing the hook around. There's my pilchard laying flat on the hook. Now a half hitch, if you pull the line in close to the hook, you'll see that it makes a loop. And that loop is a half hitch. All I now do is place that over the top of the tail and pull it tight. And that's an example of a half hitch. I'll do that again. I make a loop in the line, pinch it together and just lay it over the bait. Just lay it over the tail of the bait and pull it tight. Understanding your quarry also helps with hook placement. Now brim, for example, are an extremely slow growing fish. So a brim of 25 centimetres, which is just legal, is already 8 years old. A brim of 30 or 35 centimetres is 10 or 15 years old respectively. So you can imagine how many baits they've seen in that time. So when you're brim fishing, hook placement, stealth is a requirement. So burying the hook is the way that I would go. Also, with brim fishing, brim eat crustaceans and oysters and pippies, so their bite is one of a crushing action. So when they come in to bite that, they'll crush the bait, exposing the hook and getting a hook up. Now there are two ways I could have put that hook on. Hook in or hook out. By hook in, see how the hook is buried into the flesh of the meat? And I would use that if I was fishing for brim, or if I was fishing in a weedy area where there might be weed on the bottom or floating dead ribbon weed. There's nothing for the fell up on with a bait like that. However, if I was fishing for flathead and I'll show you what I'll do now. So an example of a hook out would be the same process. Go through the tail, pull the hook out the other side. Now, instead of going in like that, I'm going to turn the hook around, go through there, and just bring it straight back out. Like so. And again, a half hitch over the tail. Now I'd use a hook rig like that if I was fishing for flathead on a nice sandy bottom. Flathead have got a big wide gaping mouth, so they tend to swallow the bait whole. So you want as much of the hook exposed as you can. So that's why I would use the hook out method for flathead as opposed to the hook in method for brim. Now, as for putting on a prawn, again we want the small end of the prawn up near the eye of the hook. So we start down the bottom of the prawn, and I just feed that around the hook till I get to the head and just pull it out like such. Now again, I need to put a half hitch over the tail and the eye of the hook, and pull it tight to keep it all in place. So that's my brim rig using a prawn. Now, if I was using a prawn for whiting or leather jackets, I'd be using a smaller long shank hook. But here I would be peeling my prawn first. Strangely, if I'm fishing for drummer off the rocks, peeled prawn has a far greater catch rate than leaving the shell on. So, threaded onto the hook, like such. Now again, if I didn't put a half hitch on the end of that, when I go to cast it, that will happen. And as you can see, I've now exposed most of the hook for the fish to see, and I've probably done myself no favours in trying to get a hook up. So again, just about every bait that I use, I put a half hitch over the top to hold it in place. So that's the soft prawn bait. And last but not least, a soft, fresh fillet of fish. Again, a very pilchard, very, very soft bait. So, in once, pull the hook through the thickest, meatiest part of it. Lay the hook flat along the side, and then again a half hitch over the tail of the bait, pull it tight, and there is my soft fillet bait, ready for an unsuspecting fish. So I hope this helps you out, Colin and Fergus, in catching your very first of very many fish. Cheers and thanks for watching.